The sirens wail across Rome as dawn breaks on October 16th, 1943. You're standing at your window in the Jewish ghetto, watching the street below fill with soldiers, German soldiers, SS soldiers, going door to door, dragging families out, loading them onto trucks. You're not supposed to see this. You're supposed to be asleep in your warm bed, safe in whatever year you're listening from. But we're going back to when Rome was occupied, when the ghetto was a trap, when one man decided that neutrality was just another word for complicity. So get comfortable, really. Adjust those pillows, pull that blanket up, because where we're going, you'll want to remember what safety feels like. The cobblestones are cold under your feet, October morning. The kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. You're 12 years old. Your name is Sarah. And right now, your mother is pressing you against the wall beside the window, her hand over your mouth, telling you without words to be silent, to be invisible, to not exist. Through the gap in the curtain, you watch them take the Levis from across the street. Signora Levi is screaming. Her children are crying. The soldiers don't care. They've done this before. They'll do it again. By noon, they'll have taken over 1,000 people from this neighborhood alone. Your mother's hand trembles against your mouth. You can feel her heartbeat through her palm. Fast, too fast. The boots are getting closer now. You hear them on the stairs, heavy, methodical, coming up. Third floor, second floor, your floor. They're at your door. But before we get to what happens next, you need to understand something. You need to understand about the man who's going to change everything. The Irish priest who shouldn't be a hero, who wasn't supposed to be anyone special, just another Vatican diplomat with a comfortable life and no particular reason to risk it. His name is Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty. He's 45 years old, 6'2", loves golf, speaks 6 languages, and right now, at this exact moment while soldiers pound on your door, he's probably eating breakfast in his apartment inside Vatican City, safe behind walls that the Germans can't cross, neutral territory, untouchable. He could stay there, should stay there. That's what diplomacy means, after all. That's what neutrality requires. But he won't. The pounding on your door stops. Your mother's grip loosens slightly. You hear the soldiers moving on, down the hall, to another apartment. The Cohens, maybe, or the Segres. Someone else's door breaks open. Someone else's children scream. Your mother pulls you away from the window, back into the interior room, the one without windows. She's whispering prayers, or maybe curses. Hard to tell the difference when you're that terrified. You made it through this morning, this roundup, but there will be others. The Germans are thorough, methodical. They'll come back. They always come back, unless someone helps you disappear. Monsignor O'Flaherty finishes his coffee, real coffee, not that ersatz garbage most of Rome is drinking these days. The Vatican has its privileges. Neutral territory means protected supply lines, means the occupation exists on the other side of the walls, but doesn't touch you here. He's dressed in his clerical black, spotless, pressed. His room in the Collegio Teutonico is modest but comfortable, books on the shelves, photographs on the desk, his mother back in Killarney, his sister Anna. Ireland seems impossibly far away right now. Another world, a world where the war is something that happens elsewhere. There's a knock at his door. He knows what it is before he opens it. He's been expecting this, dreading this, hoping it wouldn't come but knowing it would. Henrietta Chevalier stands in the hallway, Jewish, Italian, terrified. She's heard the rumors, everyone's heard the rumors, that the Irish Monsignor might help, that he doesn't ask too many questions, that he has connections. My family, she says, just those two words. But they contain everything. O'Flaherty should say no, should explain about diplomatic neutrality, about the delicate position of the Holy See, about how one priest can't solve this problem, about how helping her would be dangerous, illegal, possibly fatal. He doesn't say any of those things. Come in, he says instead. Tell me where they are. And just like that, without ceremony or fanfare or any real plan, the most audacious rescue operation of World War II begins in a modest Vatican apartment over lukewarm coffee. Within 6 hours, Henrietta's family is hidden in a convent outside the city walls. Within a week, O'Flaherty has helped 3 more families disappear. Within a month, word has spread through the Jewish community like wildfire. There's a priest who helps, an Irishman, tall, speaks Italian with a Kerry accent, doesn't turn people away. He's going to save over 6,000 lives before this is over. 6,500 people who will live because one man decided that his comfort mattered less than their survival. But right now, standing in his apartment with Henrietta's desperate eyes on him, he doesn't know any of that. He just knows that doing nothing is not an option. Your mother has been asking questions, quietly, carefully. You can't just walk up to strangers and ask where to find help hiding from the Gestapo. That's how you end up arrested, betrayed, dead. But the baker's wife knows someone who heard about a priest, Irish, Vatican, helps people disappear. It takes 2 weeks to make contact, 2 weeks of barely sleeping, of jumping at every sound in the hallway, of your mother teaching you to pack a bag that you can grab in 30 seconds. Documents, money, one change of clothes, nothing else. Leave the photographs, leave the toys, leave everything that makes you a person. When the message finally comes, it arrives through the baker. A time, a place, a church in Trastevere. Not the Vatican itself, that would be too obvious, but a church where a priest sometimes hears confessions late in the evening. Your mother takes you there just before curfew. The streets are darker now. The Germans have strict blackout rules. No lights showing. Move quickly. Don't draw attention. Inside the church, it's even darker. Candles flickering. Shadows everywhere. You can smell incense and old stone and something else underneath it all. Fear. Everyone in here is afraid. A tall figure in black moves through the shadows. Irish accent. You're the ones looking for help? Your mother nods. Can't speak. The words won't come. The priest, O'Flaherty, kneels down to your level. Blue eyes. Kind but serious. What's your name? Sarah, you whisper. Sarah. That's a beautiful name. Named for a princess. He smiles slightly. Well, Sarah, I'm going to need you to be very brave. Can you do that? You nod. You don't feel brave. You feel terrified. But you nod anyway. Good girl. He stands, addresses your mother. I have a place, a convent. The sisters are expecting you. But you need to understand the rules. Once you go, you stay there. No trips back for belongings. No messages to friends. You disappear completely. Can you do that? Yes, your mother says, finally finding her voice. Anything. The sisters will give you new names, new papers. You'll be Catholics now, at least on paper. Your daughter will need to learn some prayers, basic ones, in case anyone asks. She'll learn, your mother promises, whatever it takes. O'Flaherty nods. He's done this before, dozens of times already. He knows the routine, the logistics, the risks. One more thing, he says. His voice drops lower, more serious. If you're caught, you don't know me. You found this place on your own. You never heard of any Irish priest. Understand? What about you? Your mother asks. What happens to you if we're caught? O'Flaherty shrugs, that easy Irish shrug that doesn't quite hide the weight underneath. The Germans can't touch me inside the Vatican. That's the one advantage we have. They respect the neutrality, for now. He doesn't mention the white line that will soon be painted at the edge of St. Peter's Square, the boundary between safety and arrest, the line he'll stand at every evening, smoking his pipe, staring down the Gestapo agents who want nothing more than to drag him across it. But that comes later. Right now, he's just helping a mother and daughter disappear into the night. The convent is cold. Stone floors, stone walls. Everything is stone, and silence and the rustle of habits as the nuns move through the corridors like ghosts. Sister Maria gives you your new name, Lucia Romani, Catholic, born in Naples, father killed in the war, mother died of typhus, orphan, tragic but common enough that no one will question it too closely. You practice your new prayers, Ave Maria, Pater Noster, words in Latin that mean nothing to you but might mean survival. Your mother becomes Maria Romani, widow, taking refuge with the sisters while she grieves. Plausible, normal, invisible. The convent is full of invisible people. You realize this slowly. The young woman who helps in the kitchen and flinches at loud noises. The elderly couple who spend all day in the chapel but never take communion. The teenage boy working in the garden who doesn't meet anyone's eyes. All of them hiding. All of them saved by the same Irish priest. Sister Maria brings news sometimes, carefully, in whispers during evening prayers. The network is growing. More safe houses, more people hidden. Not just Jews now. Allied soldiers who escaped from prisoner of war camps. Italian resistance fighters. Anyone running from the Germans? Monsignor O'Flaherty has become quite bold. Sister Maria whispers one evening, as he walks through Rome in broad daylight now. Disguised, of course, sometimes as a street sweeper, sometimes as a coal merchant. Once, they say, he dressed as a nun. She almost smiles at that. 6'2" in a habit. Quite a sight, I imagine. You try to picture it. The tall priest in nun's robes. It should be funny. It's not. It's terrifying. Every time he leaves the Vatican, he's risking death. Why does he do it, you ask? Not quite a whisper. The words just slip out. Sister Maria looks at you, really looks at you. Because someone has to, she says simply. Because doing nothing is also a choice. And the Monsignor decided long ago which choice he could live with. The months blur together. Winter comes. The convent is colder. Food is scarcer. The Germans are tightening their control over Rome. More checkpoints, more searches, more arrests. Sister Maria brings different news now, whispered, urgent. The Gestapo knows about O'Flaherty, has figured out what he's doing. They've assigned their best man to catch him, Herbert Kappler, SS Obersturmbannführer, the Gestapo chief for Rome, cold, methodical, efficient. He's turned the Villa Tasso into a place where screams echo through expensive rooms, where resistance fighters go in and don't come out, where the tools of interrogation are precise and scientific and horrifying. He's made it his personal mission to stop the Irish priest. It becomes a game, a deadly one. Kapler sends agents to watch the Vatican exits. O'Flaherty changes his routes, varies his disguises, never uses the same safe house twice in a row, never follows a pattern. Kapler puts a price on information, leading to O'Flaherty's capture outside Vatican territory. O'Flaherty recruits informants inside the Gestapo itself. He gets Italian clerks and secretaries who hate their German overlords. Kapler has the white line painted, the boundary at St. Peter's Square, clear and unambiguous. Cross this line, Monsignor, and we have you. O'Flaherty stands at the line every evening at sunset, smoking his pipe, waving at the German guards, a few inches from arrest, utterly untouchable. It's psychological warfare. Both of them know it. Both of them play the game because neither one can afford to lose. You hear about it secondhand, stories filtering through the network. The priest who dresses as a coal merchant, who hides people in churches and convents and the apartments of sympathetic Romans, who forges documents that fool even trained German eyes, who has turned the Vatican's neutrality into a weapon. 6 months pass, a year. You're 13 now, taller, older. You've learned to cross yourself without thinking, to recite prayers in Latin, to be Lucia Romani so thoroughly that Sarah feels like someone you used to know. Your mother is graying, the stress of constantly hiding, constantly performing, constantly being one word away from death. But you're alive. That's what matters. You're alive because an Irish priest decided that comfort mattered less than conscience. The villa sits on Via Tasso, elegant and brutal, once home to wealthy Romans, now converted into Gestapo headquarters. The screams are soundproofed. The beautiful frescoed ceilings look down on horror. Kapler sits in his office on the 4th floor, overlooking the street, reports spread across his desk, maps, photographs, intelligence. He's hunting a ghost. The Irish priest has become an obsession, not just because of the escaped prisoners and hidden Jews. Those are strategic concerns, yes, but there's something else now, something personal. O'Flaherty is making fools of them, of the Gestapo, of German efficiency, of Kapler himself. Every evening, the priest stands at that damned white line, smoking, smiling, untouchable. It's an insult, a mockery. Kapler has considered simply shooting him, a sniper, one bullet, problem solved. But the diplomatic consequences would be severe. The Vatican is neutral, technically. Killing a Vatican diplomat would strain relations with other neutral countries, would cause problems Hitler doesn't need right now. So Kapler is forced to be creative, to hunt within the rules, to catch O'Flaherty outside Vatican territory without creating an international incident. It's proving difficult. The priest has informants, his aide reports. Inside our own offices, we've arrested 3 suspected collaborators this week. They're being questioned now. Questioning, such a polite word for what happens in the basement of Villa Tasso. And, Kapler asks, they know nothing or they're not talking. More likely, they know nothing. O'Flaherty is too smart to give his full network to any one person. He compartmentalizes, separates the pieces. No one knows the whole operation except the Irish priest himself. The safe houses, Kapler tries. We've raided 4 this month, all empty by the time we arrived. Someone warns them. Of course someone warns them. The network has eyes everywhere, probably watching this building right now, probably reporting every German movement. Kapler lights a cigarette, stares at the map of Rome spread across his desk, pins marking known Vatican contacts, lines connecting safe houses, red circles around areas of high activity. It looks like a spider web, the Irish priest at the center, threads stretching across the entire city. We know he leaves the Vatican, Kapler says, thinking out loud. He must. He can't coordinate all this from inside those walls, so he's coming out in disguise, which means we need better surveillance, more checkpoints, random searches. The Romans are already complaining about the checkpoints. His aide mentions carefully, let them complain. Kapler doesn't care about Roman complaints. Rome is occupied territory. They'll endure what they're told to endure, but increasing patrols means spreading his forces thinner, means pulling men from other duties, means resources diverted from hunting actual resistance fighters to catch one priest. One very slippery priest. Kapler crushes out his cigarette, makes a decision. Offer a reward, he says. 10,000 lyre for information leading to the priest's capture outside Vatican territory. Make it known in every cafe and shop in Rome. Someone will talk, they always do. His aide nods, leaves to make the arrangements. Kapler returns to his map, studies it. Somewhere in this tangle of streets and safe houses and contacts, there's a weakness, a pattern, a mistake. O'Flaherty will slip eventually. Everyone does. And when he does, Kapler will be waiting. The cat watches the mouse hole and waits. But this mouse, it turns out, is very good at avoiding cats. You see the white line for the first time in spring, 1944 now. The war grinding on, Rome still occupied but the tide turning. Everyone can feel it. The Germans are losing in Russia. The Allies control most of Italy south of Rome. Liberation is coming. But not yet. Not soon enough. Your mother takes you into the city, carefully, with your false papers, to get supplies for the convent. You're Lucia Romani, orphan, Catholic. You've practiced this role for so long it feels true. You're walking through Piazza San Pietro, St. Peter's Square, massive, ancient. And there, painted on the cobblestones, a white line, crisp, clear, about 2 meters from the colonnade. German soldiers stand on one side, Swiss guards on the other. That's the boundary, your mother whispers. Cross it one way, you're in Vatican territory. German laws don't apply. Cross it the other way. She doesn't finish, doesn't need to. You stare at the line. It's just paint, white paint on stone, but it represents everything. Safety and danger, life and death, the thinnest possible margin between the two. And then you see him, tall, black cassock, smoking a pipe, standing maybe 30 centimeters from the line, Vatican side, completely safe, completely untouchable. Monsignor O'Flaherty. You've heard so many stories about him. The priest who saves people, the Irish diplomat who's now the most wanted man in Rome. But seeing him in person is different. He doesn't look like a hero, doesn't look like someone who's saved thousands. He just looks like a priest. A tall one, yes, but ordinary, normal, except for his eyes. Even from a distance you can see them. Blue, sharp, watching everything, missing nothing. On the other side of the line, German officers stand rigid, staring at him, wanting nothing more than to cross that line and drag him across. But they can't. The Vatican is neutral, protected, inviolable, so they stand there, impotent, furious, while O'Flaherty smokes his pipe and waves cheerfully. He does this every evening, your mother whispers, just stands there, reminding them they can't touch him. It's the most aggressive act of passive resistance you've ever witnessed. Not violence, not fighting, just presence, just existing in a space they can't enter, just refusing to be afraid. One of the German officers, older, scarred face, takes a step toward the line. His hand moves toward his pistol. O'Flaherty doesn't move, doesn't flinch, just stands there, pipe smoke curling up into the Roman twilight. The German officer stops, knows he can't cross, knows shooting would create an international incident, knows he's beaten by geography and diplomacy. He turns, walks away. The other officers follow. O'Flaherty finishes his pipe, taps it out against the colonnade, heads back into the Vatican. Just another evening's entertainment. Your mother pulls you away. You need to finish shopping, need to get back to the convent before curfew. But you keep thinking about that white line, that boundary between worlds, and the priest who stands at it every single day, reminding the Germans that some things they cannot control. That night, back in the convent, you ask Sister Maria about it. Why does he do that? Stand at the line? Isn't it dangerous? Sister Maria considers the question. Dangerous, perhaps, but also necessary. The Monsignor needs the Germans to know he's not afraid, that he won't be intimidated, that their threats mean nothing. But what if they shoot him anyway? Then he dies, Sister Maria says simply. But they won't. They're bound by rules too, by politics and diplomacy, and the need to maintain the fiction of Vatican neutrality. The Monsignor understands this, uses it, weaponizes their own restrictions against them. It's brilliant, you realize, and terrifying. One policy change, one moment of German frustration boiling over, one bullet, and it all ends. But O'Flaherty keeps standing there, every evening, right at the edge of death, smoking his pipe, refusing to be afraid. That takes a courage you can barely comprehend. Spring becomes summer. The Allies land at Normandy. Everyone knows now the war is ending. Germany is losing. It's just a matter of time. But time can be deadly. The Germans know they're losing. It makes them more dangerous, not less, desperate, vicious, lashing out. In June, they raid a safe house near Piazza Navona, catch 12 people hiding there, execute them in the street, leave the bodies as a warning. Sister Maria brings the news, her face pale. The Monsignor's beside himself, she whispers, blames himself, but there was no way to know. The landlord betrayed them, needed money. The Germans paid well. 10,000 lire for information. Kapler's reward is working. More raids follow. A convent near Termini Station, an apartment in Trastevere, a basement in the Jewish ghetto. The network is bleeding, pieces being cut away, people being caught. O'Flaherty works faster, moves people more frequently, changes procedures. But he can't be everywhere, can't save everyone. In July, they nearly catch him. You hear about it third hand, how the Monsignor was moving a family, had dressed as a street sweeper, was pushing a cart with the family's belongings, completely ordinary, until a Gestapo patrol stopped him for a random search. Papers. He showed them papers, perfect forgeries. He's used this identity before. Giuseppe Romani, street sweeper, war veteran with a bad leg, papers all in order. The officer studies them, studies him, 6'2", hard to hide that height, even in disguise. You look familiar, the officer says in German. O'Flaherty responds in Italian, perfect Roman accent. Many street sweepers look alike, signore. We all wear the same face, the face of honest labor. The officer isn't satisfied. He pulls out a photograph, a grainy surveillance photo of O'Flaherty in his clerical blacks, holds it up, compares it to the man in front of him. The dirty face, The workman's clothes, the hunched posture, the height, though. The height is the same. Your papers say you're from Rome. The officer continues. What parish were you baptized in? It's a trap. If he names a real parish, they can check the records. If he names a fake one, they'll know he's lying. O'Flaherty doesn't hesitate. Santa Maria in Trastevere. Father Bruno performed the baptism. Long dead now, God rest his soul. Records were lost in the fire of 22. Plausible, checkable, but difficult to verify. The perfect lie built on a foundation of just enough truth. The officer stares at him, long moment, deciding, then hands back the papers. Move along. O'Flaherty pushes his cart, slowly, steadily, not too fast, not showing relief, just a street sweeper going about his business. 3 blocks away, he abandons the cart, changes clothes in a doorway, returns to the Vatican through a side entrance. That's when he realizes his hands are shaking. First time in months. The fear catching up to him hours after the danger passed. He's been pushing too hard, taking too many risks. Eventually, his luck will run out. But what's the alternative? Stop? Let people die because saving them is too dangerous? No, that's not an option. Never was. So he keeps going, keeps saving, keeps standing at that white line every evening, reminding the Germans that some things remain beyond their control, even as the net draws tighter. June 4th, 1944, before dawn. You wake to the sound of church bells, not the regular morning bells, something different, urgent, joy mixed with alarm. Your mother is already up, standing at the window. She's crying. What is it, you ask? Afraid. The tears could mean anything. She turns. Her face is wet, but she's smiling. The Germans are leaving. The Americans are coming. Roma is being liberated. You don't believe it at first. Can't let yourself believe it. Too many false hopes. Too many times you thought things would get better, only to have them get worse. But it's true. Throughout the morning, you watch from the convent windows. German convoys racing north. Trucks loaded with supplies and soldiers. They're retreating, running. By afternoon, the first American vehicles appear. Jeeps, tanks, soldiers in unfamiliar uniforms, speaking English, grinning, distributing chocolate to children who barely remember what peace feels like. Rome is free. The convent erupts in celebration, carefully, quietly. Years of forced silence don't disappear overnight. But there's laughter, relief, hope. Sister Maria finds you that evening. Monsignor O'Flaherty wants to see everyone he helped, everyone who's still in hiding. There's a gathering tomorrow at a church near the Vatican. You should come, both of you. Your mother hesitates. Even now, even free, the instinct to hide is hard to shake. But she nods. We'll be there. The next day, you walk through Rome openly for the first time in months. No disguises, no false papers, just yourselves. The city is transformed. American flags hanging from windows, people in the streets, celebrating, crying, embracing soldiers who don't speak their language, but freed them anyway. The church is packed. Hundreds of people, maybe 1,000, all of them saved by the same network, the same priest. O'Flaherty stands at the altar, still in his black cassock, still tall and imposing. But he looks tired, older than his years, the weight of 20 months of constant fear and constant work showing in the lines around his eyes. He doesn't give a speech, doesn't take credit, just thanks everyone for their courage, for trusting, for surviving. We did what we had to do, he says, his Irish accent thick. What anyone would do when faced with such evil. We chose to act instead of doing nothing, that's all. But it wasn't all. It was everything. 6,500 lives, 6,500 people standing in churches and homes across Rome, breathing, living, surviving, because one man decided his comfort mattered less than their lives. After the gathering, your mother approaches him. You're shy, hanging back, but she pulls you forward. Monsignor, she says, can barely speak. We never properly thanked you. O'Flaherty looks at her, at you, recognition in his eyes. He remembers from that first night in the church in Trastevere, the desperate mother and frightened daughter. No thanks needed, he says gently. Seeing you both alive and safe is thanks enough. What will you do now? Your mother asks. Now that it's over? O'Flaherty considers the question, looks around the packed church, at all the lives he saved, at the network he built, at the impossible thing he accomplished. Return to normal diplomatic work, I suppose, he says. Much less exciting than the past 2 years, though I imagine I won't miss the constant fear of arrest. He's being modest, trying to minimize what he did, trying to return to being ordinary. But you understand now, looking at him, at this tall Irish priest who refused to be complicit in evil, who built an underground railroad right under the Nazis' noses, who saved thousands by simply deciding that doing nothing was not an option. Heroes don't look like you expect them to, don't sound like you imagine. They're just people who, when faced with a choice between comfort and conscience, choose conscience every time, even when it's terrifying, even when it could cost them everything, even when it would be so much easier to just look away. They choose to see, to act, to save who they can with whatever tools they have. That's what O'Flaherty did. Not with weapons or grand plans, just with connections and forged papers and a refusal to accept that some people were acceptable losses. 6,500 lives, 6,500 stories that continue because of him. Families that exist today, decades later, because an Irish priest in 1943 decided that neutrality was just another word for cowardice. The years pass. The war ends completely. Germany surrenders. The Nazis are tried at Nuremberg. The world tries to rebuild. O'Flaherty returns to being an ordinary Vatican diplomat. But the story doesn't end there. In 1946, Herbert Kappler is captured, tried for war crimes, specifically for the Ardeatine massacre, the execution of 335 Italian civilians in retaliation for a partisan attack. He's convicted, sentenced to life in an Italian prison. Everyone expects O'Flaherty to celebrate, to feel vindicated. The man who hunted him is now imprisoned. Instead, the Irish priest does something that shocks everyone who knows him. He visits Kappler in prison, not once, monthly, for years, brings him books, talks with him, treats him like a human being deserving of dignity despite everything he did. The guards don't understand it. The other prisoners are baffled. Why would a man visit the person who tried to kill him, who murdered hundreds, who represented everything evil about the occupation? But O'Flaherty explains it simply when asked. He's a human being, a soul, and no soul is beyond redemption. For 11 years, he visits, talks, listens. Gradually, slowly, Kappler begins to change. The hard SS officer softens, questions what he did, questions who he was. In 1959, on his deathbed, Herbert Kappler converts to Catholicism, baptized by the same Irish priest he once hunted, the man he wanted to arrest and execute, It's O'Flaherty's final rescue, not of a body, but of a soul. He returns to Ireland in 1960, his health failing, the years of stress and constant fear taking their toll. He retires to a small cottage in Kerry, far from Rome and war and underground networks. He dies 3 years later, October 30th, 1963, age 65. The funeral is small, local parishioners, a few Vatican officials. Most people in Ireland don't know what he did. The story hasn't been told widely yet. The people he saved know, though. Letters arrive at his cottage from around the world, from Israel and America and Australia, from the children and grandchildren of people he rescued, from families that exist because of him. His grave is modest, in Killarney, a simple headstone with his name and dates. Nothing about the thousands he saved, nothing about the Underground Railroad, nothing about standing at the White Line every evening, refusing to be afraid. For years, that's how it stays, a quiet grave for a man the world forgot. But stories this powerful don't stay buried. In the 1980s, his story begins to emerge. Books written, a television movie produced, recognition arriving too late for him to see it, but not too late for the world to learn what he did. Israel honors him at Yad Vashem, righteous among the nations. A Catholic priest who saved Jews when their own church remained largely silent. Ireland finally claims him as a hero. The modest cottage in Kerry becomes a site of pilgrimage, and Rome, the city where it all happened, names a street after him, via Monsignor Hugh O'Flaherty, running near where he stood at the White Line, where he smoked his pipe and stared down the Germans. Today, decades later, researchers estimate that O'Flaherty's 6,500 rescues have resulted in over 100,000 living descendants, an entire community of people who exist because one man decided to act. That's his legacy. Not monuments or medals, though those came eventually, but lives, stories, families gathering for dinners and holidays, children being born, love and laughter and ordinary moments of joy. All of it existing because an Irish priest in 1943 stood at a window in the Vatican, looked at a desperate Jewish woman, and said yes instead of no. You're back now, in your warm bed, in your safe room, in a time when Rome is filled with tourists instead of occupiers, when the White Line is long gone, when the ghetto is just a neighborhood, historic but not hunted. The comfort you feel right now, that's what they didn't have. O'Flaherty and the people he saved, they lived with constant fear, constant uncertainty, constant danger. But they also lived with choice. Every single day, O'Flaherty chose to act instead of doing nothing, chose conscience over comfort, chose other people's lives over his own safety. That's the lesson. Not that you should be a hero, not that you need to save thousands, but that choices matter, small ones, daily ones. The decision to see suffering instead of looking away, to help when you can, to refuse to be complicit in injustice, even when speaking up is uncomfortable. O'Flaherty wasn't special, wasn't superhuman. He was just a priest who played golf and spoke multiple languages and happened to be in Rome when history required someone to act. He could have stayed in his comfortable Vatican apartment, could have said it wasn't his problem, could have pointed to diplomatic neutrality and the delicate position of the Holy See and all the very good reasons to do nothing. He didn't. And 6,500 people lived because of it. The world still has moments that require choosing, still has people who need help, still has lines that get drawn between safety and danger, still offers daily opportunities to act or to look away. What will you choose? Not today, necessarily, not right now in your comfortable bed, but tomorrow, next week, when you're faced with someone who needs help and helping them would be inconvenient or uncomfortable or risky. Will you be like the Vatican officials who counseled caution, who worried about diplomacy and neutrality and not making waves? Or will you be like the Irish priest who stood at the white line every evening, refusing to be afraid, choosing action over comfort every single day for 20 months? That's the question his story asks, not just about history, about you, about what you'll do when your moment comes, because it will come. Maybe not with German soldiers and underground networks, maybe just with a person who needs help and a choice about whether to provide it. In that moment, remember O'Flaherty. Remember that heroes aren't born. They're just ordinary people who, when asked to choose between right and easy, choose right, even when it costs them everything, even when it would be so much simpler to look away, even when no one would blame them for staying safe. They choose to see, to act, to save who they can with whatever they have. That's what made O'Flaherty extraordinary. Not supernatural courage, not special abilities, just an ordinary man's decision to be anything but complicit. 6,500 times he made that choice. 6,500 lives, 6,500 stories. What will your number be? Close your eyes now. Let the weight of the story settle. Feel the safety of your bed beneath you, the warmth of your blankets, the peace of knowing no one is coming to drag you away in the night. That comfort exists because people like O'Flaherty fought for it, chose it, refused to let evil have the final word. Sleep now, dream peacefully, and tomorrow, when you wake, remember that you have choices too, daily opportunities to act instead of looking away, to help instead of ignoring, to choose conscience over comfort. Not everyone can save thousands, but everyone can save someone. That's enough, more than enough. That's the lesson from the Scarlet Pimpernel of the Vatican, from the Irish priest who refused to do nothing, from the man who stood at the white line and wouldn't be moved. Rest now. You're safe. You're warm. You're here. And somewhere, in 100,000 families scattered across the world, descendants of the people O'Flaherty saved are resting too, living lives that almost weren't, breathing air they almost never breathed, existing because one man chose action. That's his legacy. That could be yours too. Sleep well. You know, as you drift deeper into sleep, I suddenly remembered another story, a completely different one, yet just as remarkable, and perhaps it will find its place beside the one you've just heard. You're probably familiar with World War II's stories, the big battles, the famous generals, the turning points that changed history. But have you ever heard about the 500-pound brown bear who carried ammunition through enemy fire, drank beer with Polish soldiers, and became an official enlisted member of the Allied forces? This isn't a legend. This isn't exaggerated. This is the true story of Wojtek, the only bear in history to hold military rank, fight at Monte Cassino, and earn a place in the hearts of men who'd already lost everything. Your name is Pyotr Prendis. You're 22 years old, and you shouldn't be alive. It's April 1942. You're somewhere in Persia, modern-day Iran, trudging through dust that gets into everything. Your mouth, your eyes, the cracks in your boots, The sun beats down, relentless. The kind of heat that makes you forget Poland ever had winter. Makes you forget a lot of things, actually. Like what it felt like to be cold, what it felt like to have enough food, what it felt like before the Soviets arrested you. You were a university student, 20 years old, studying in Warsaw. That was 1939, lifetime ago. Germany invaded from the west, Soviets from the east. Poland disappeared from the map like someone erased it with a thumb. You got caught with a Polish flag. That was your crime. Anti revolutionary activities, they called it. The sentence was Kolyma, Eastern Siberia, one of Stalin's worst camps. You don't talk about Kolyma. None of the men around you talk about it. But you all have the same look in your eyes, the same way of eating, slow and careful, like the food might disappear. The same flinch when someone shouts, the same nightmares. 50% didn't make it out. 50% died from cold, starvation, exhaustion, disease. You watched men freeze to death in their bunks, watched them drop in the mines, in the forests, just drop and not get back up. Bodies stacked like cordwood because the ground was too frozen to dig graves. But then something changed. Hitler invaded Russia, broke the pact. Suddenly Stalin needed allies, needed soldiers. So he let the Polish prisoners go. Not out of kindness, strategy. They're forming an army, the Polish Second Corps, under General Anders. Men who barely survived the camps now being given uniforms, weapons, a chance to fight. For what exactly? Your country doesn't exist anymore. Your family, you don't know. Haven't heard anything in 2 years. Could be dead, so probably are dead. But you signed up anyway. Because what else is there? So now you're here. Persia. Moving south through mountains and desert. Part of this ragged column of half-dead men who somehow have to become soldiers again. The British are organizing it, supplying it, pointing you toward the Germans in North Africa, in Italy, wherever they need bodies. Your unit, the 22nd Artillery Supply Company, is responsible for ammunition, getting shells to the guns. Not glamorous, not exciting, just essential. You carry boxes. You drive trucks when there are trucks. You make sure the artillery has what it needs to keep firing. Today, you're walking. The trucks are somewhere else, broken down or requisitioned or who knows. So you walk. Your left boot has a hole in it. Water seeps in when you cross streams. Doesn't matter. You've had worse. The landscape is beautiful in a harsh way. Mountains in the distance, rocky hills, vegetation that's tough and sparse. Nothing like Poland. Nothing like Siberia either. Somewhere completely other, which is almost a relief. No memories attached to this place. No ghosts, except you're making new memories. Your unit stops in a small town. Hamadan, someone says. You're setting up camp for the night, finding water, distributing rations. The rations are better now than in the camps. Still not enough, never enough, but better. Your stomach has stopped cramping constantly. That's progress. A local boy approaches, maybe 10 years old. He's carrying something in a burlap sack. The sack moves, makes sounds. You're not the only one who notices. 3 or 4 soldiers gather around, curious. Anything different, anything unusual, it's entertainment. The boy opens the sack. Inside is a bear cub, tiny thing. Brown fur, black nose, eyes that haven't fully opened yet. Can't be more than a few months old, maybe weeks. It's making small, whimpering sounds. Confused, scared, hungry, definitely hungry. Where did you get this? Someone asks in broken Persian. The boy understands enough. Hunters had killed the mother. He gestures toward the mountains. They left the cub. It will die alone. The soldiers look at each other. You look at the cub. It's so small. Fits in two hands. Fragile. Helpless. Like everything else in this war. Just trying to survive. Someone laughs. Not cruel. Just surprised. A bear. In the middle of Persia. In the middle of a war. Of all things. How much, you hear yourself ask? The words come out before you think about them. The boy looks at you, calculating. These Polish soldiers, they have things. Not much, but things. Chocolate from British rations, cigarettes, anything useful. The negotiation is brief. You trade your chocolate bar, saved from yesterday. A can of beef you were keeping for emergencies. Your Swiss Army knife, the one your father gave you before university, the one you somehow kept through Colima, through everything. The boy takes them, hands you the sack, runs off before you can change your mind. You're holding a burlap sack with a bear cub in it. Your friends are staring at you like you've lost your mind. Maybe you have. What are you going to do with that? Someone asks. You don't know. Honestly, don't know. But the cub is making those sounds, helpless and confused, and suddenly it matters. Suddenly this small creature matters more than the knife, more than the chocolate, more than anything. Feed it, you say. We're going to feed it. Your tent that night becomes an impromptu nursery. 6 soldiers crowded around, watching you try to feed a bear cub with an empty vodka bottle and a rag. The cub doesn't understand at first, squirms, makes angry sounds. Then it gets the idea, latches onto the rag, starts sucking. You're using condensed milk. Someone donated it. British ration. The cub drinks. Not much, but some. Then more. Its little paws grip the bottle. The soldiers watch in silence. Tough men, survivors of hell. Watching a bear cub eat like it's the most important thing in the world. Someone suggests a name, Wojtek. It means happy warrior in Polish, or smiling warrior, something like that. The cub doesn't look particularly happy right now, just hungry and confused. But the name fits, sounds right. Wojtek, your bear. The next morning, your sergeant sees Wojtek. His face goes through several expressions: confusion, disbelief, anger, then something else. He sighs. Just keep it out of the way, he says finally, and if it becomes a problem, it's gone. You nod. Won't be a problem. You'll make sure. The march continues, south through Persia, then into Iraq. The Polish Second Corps is growing, organizing, training, slowly transforming from a mass of former prisoners into something resembling an army. It's not fast. The men are malnourished, traumatized, sick. But they're alive. They're free. That counts for something. Wojtek travels with you. In the sack at first, then in a wooden box when he gets bigger. He grows fast, alarmingly fast. What fits in 2 hands becomes what fills your arms, then what requires 2 people to lift. The soldiers love him. Everyone loves him. He's something pure in a world of violence and death, something innocent. The British officers who visit the Polish units hear about the bear, come to see for themselves, take photographs. Wojtek becomes minor camp celebrity. He learns behaviors by watching. That's the remarkable thing. He sees soldiers saluting, starts raising his paw when people approach. Not exactly a salute, but close enough. Makes everyone laugh. He sees people showering, starts loving water. Will stand under any stream, any pump, any rain, just stand there enjoying it. And he eats everything: fruits, vegetables, bread, meat, honey, especially honey. The soldiers share their rations, sometimes too much. Wojtek's stomach gets upset, has to learn portion control bear style, but he's growing, healthy, thriving in a way that seems impossible given where you all are, what you've all been through. Months pass. The Polish Second Corps moves to Palestine. Training intensifies. You're going to fight, actually fight. The question is where? North Africa is collapsing for the Germans. Rommel is retreating. The British Eighth Army, Montgomery's army, is pushing them back. But there's talk of Italy, of invading Europe through the soft underbelly. Wojtek is huge now, not fully grown, but big, maybe 200 pounds. Still playful, still gentle, but powerful. You've seen him wrestle with soldiers, careful wrestling, like he knows his own strength. He lets them win, always lets them win, pins himself down, rolls over, makes it a game. One day he finds a scorpion. This is in the Palestinian desert. Scorpions everywhere, dangerous. Their sting can kill. Wojtek picks one up. Soldiers start yelling, trying to warn him. He looks at the scorpion. The scorpion stings him right on the nose. Wojtek drops it, shakes his head, looks offended, surprised, then angry. He kills the scorpion, stomps it. After that, he hates scorpions, declares war on them. Anytime he sees one, he kills it. The soldiers find this hilarious. Wojtek, protector of the camp, destroyer of scorpions. But everything changes in 1943. Orders come down. The Polish Second Corps is deploying to Italy, joining the British Eighth Army for the Italian campaign. This is real. This is combat. Everything you've been training for, everything you've been preparing for, it's happening. There's a problem, though. Navy regulations. No mascots on transport ships. No animals at all. You're shipping from Alexandria to Naples. British Navy. British rules. Wojtek can't come. The soldiers are devastated. You're devastated. Wojtek isn't just a pet. He's family. He's been with you through Persia, Iraq, Palestine, through the rebuilding, the healing, the slow transformation from prisoner to soldier. He's part of the unit, part of you. Someone has an idea. You don't know who, but maybe Lieutenant Anatol, maybe the company commander. Doesn't matter. The idea is genius. Enlist him. Make Wojtek a soldier, official soldier, with ranks, with papers, with a service number. Then he's not a mascot. He's personnel. The paperwork goes through. Don't ask how. Military bureaucracy is strange. Someone somewhere stamps the forms. Private Wojtek, service number, Polish Second Corps, 22nd Artillery Supply Company. He's in official. The British at the port in Alexandria see the papers, see the name, see the rank, wave you through. They know it's a bear. Of course they know. But the paperwork is in order. And honestly, in the middle of a war, a bear with military papers is probably not the strangest thing they've seen. Wojtek boards the ship, walks up the gangplank like he owns it. The sailors stare. Wojtek doesn't care. He's a soldier now, going to war. Unlike your warm bed right now, your soft pillow, your safety, you're on a cramped transport ship. Salt spray, diesel fumes, hundreds of men packed into holds. Wojtek gets his own space, sort of. A corner of the deck where he can see the ocean, feel the wind. He loves it. Stands at the rail like a captain, surveying his domain. The crossing takes days. The Mediterranean is choppy. Men get seasick. Wojtek is fine, better than fine. He's fascinated by the water, by the ship, by everything. The sailors bring him scraps, extra food. Everyone wants to meet the soldier bear. You reach Naples in November 1943. Italy is chaos. The Germans are fighting for every mile, every town, every hill. The Gustav Line, their defensive positions across central Italy, is holding. Monte Cassino, the anchor of that line, is considered impregnable. An ancient Benedictine monastery on top of a mountain turned into a fortress by elite German paratroopers. Previous Allied assaults have failed. Thousands of casualties. No progress. The Polish Second Corps is being sent there, to Monte Cassino, to break what nobody else could break. You don't talk about the fear. None of the soldiers talk about it. But it's there. You survived Colima, survived the camps. Now you might die on an Italian mountain, fighting for a country that doesn't exist anymore, for a cause that might be lost. Wojtek seems oblivious. He's thriving, grown to maybe 400 pounds now. Huge, powerful, but still gentle with his human friends. He sleeps in your tent, takes up most of the space, snores like a freight train. You don't mind. The warmth helps. It's the companionships helps more. The company moves north. Slow advance through Italian winter. Cold, wet, miserable. Different from Polish winter. This is damp cold, the kind that seeps into your bones, into your gear, into everything. Wojtek doesn't care. He's got thick fur. The cold doesn't bother him at all. You reach the Monte Cassino area in February 1944. The mountain dominates everything. You can see it for miles. The monastery at the top, white stone, ancient, beautiful. Now it's death. German observers up there can see everything, every movement, every position, every approach. Their artillery is perfectly ranged. Previous attacks walked into slaughter. The Polish Second Corps prepares. Training, reconnaissance, planning. General Anders knows what he's asking, knows the cost. But someone has to take that mountain. Someone has to break the Gustav Line. And the Poles, the survivors of Soviet camps, the men with nothing left to lose, they're the ones chosen. Wojtek is part of the preparations. The soldiers bring him to the forward areas, let him see the terrain. He doesn't understand war, doesn't understand strategy, but he understands his friends are serious, tense, different. The artillery positions are being set up, 25-pounder guns, heavy. Each shell weighs about 25 pounds, obviously. The ammunition comes in wooden crates, 4 shells per crate. Takes 4 men to carry a crate comfortably. 2 men if you're desperate. 1 man if you're stupid and want a hernia. Wojtek watches the soldiers moving crates, stacking ammunition, preparing for the barrage that will precede the assault. He watches like he always watches, curious, attentive, learning. May 11th is 1944. The 4th battle for Monte Cassino begins. Artillery barrage at 2300 hours, 11 p.m. Hundreds of guns opening fire at once. The sound is impossible. Physical. You feel it in your chest, in your teeth, in your bones. The mountain lights up. Orange flashes, smoke, and explosions. It looks like the end of the world. The shells keep firing, hour after hour. You're at the supply dump, part of the chain moving ammunition from the trucks to the gun positions. This is your job. This is what you've trained for. But training doesn't prepare you for this. For the scale, the chaos, the relentless demand, more shells. The guns are eating ammunition, faster than expected. The crews are working at maximum speed. You're running. Everyone's running. Carrying crates, 2 men per crate, moving as fast as possible. The guns can't stop. If they stop, the infantry dies. German artillery fires back. Counter battery fire. Shells land near the supply route. Explosions throwing dirt, shrapnel, smoke. A crate carrier goes down, hit, dead before he hits the ground. Someone else grabs the crates, keeps moving. No time to stop, no time to mourn. You're exhausted. Everyone's exhausted. The crates are heavy. Your back screams, your arms shake. How long has it been? 3 hours? 4? Time has no meaning. Just lift, carry, stack, run back, lift again. Then you see something impossible. Wojtek is moving crates by himself, walking upright on his hind legs, carrying a crate of shells in his arms, just walking, calm, like he's taking a stroll. He carries the crate to the gun position, sets it down, walks back, gets another one. You stop, just stop and stare. Other soldiers are staring too. A bear, a 500-pound bear, carrying ammunition through artillery fire. He doesn't flinch at the explosions, doesn't panic at the chaos, just works, methodical, efficient, one crate after another. He carries them the way you'd carry a small package, easy, effortless. What takes 4 men to lift, he handles alone. The gun crews see him, stare, go back to loading. If the bear is working, they're working. No time for amazement. Just keep firing. All night, Wojtek carries ammunition, never drops a crate, never stops, never shows fear, just works. The soldiers around him find new energy. If the bear can do this, they can do this. Something about his presence, his calm, it helps, steadies everyone. Dawn comes. The barrage continues. The Polish infantry is advancing up the mountain, fighting for every meter. The casualties are horrific, but they're making progress, more than anyone has made before. Wojtek keeps working, into the morning, into the afternoon. He must be tired, must be, but he doesn't stop. The soldiers bring him water. He drinks, goes back to work. By evening, the guns have fired thousands of rounds. The supply chain held, barely, but it held. The infantry is dug in on the lower slopes. Progress? Real progress? Wojtek finally stops, sits down, heavy. His paws are scraped. His fur is dirty, singed in places from near-miss explosions. He looks exhausted. He is exhausted. You bring him food, water. He eats, drinks, lies down right there in the dirt near the guns, falls asleep. The soldiers stand guard over him. Nobody says anything, don't need to. What Wojtek did, what he gave, everyone saw it. Everyone knows. The battle for Monte Cassino continues for days, week. The Polish Second Corps pushes forward, meter by meter, body by body. The casualties are staggering. Over 4,000 Polish soldiers killed or wounded. But on May 18th, 1944, Polish soldiers raised the Polish flag over the ruins of the monastery. Monte Cassino has fallen. The Germans are gone. The Gustav Line is broken. The road to Rome is open. Wojtek's role in the battle becomes legend. Word spreads through the Allied forces. A bear carrying ammunition through enemy fire. Officers come to see him. War correspondents, photographers. Wojtek is famous. The 22nd Company gets official recognition. A new unit emblem. A bear carrying an artillery shell. It goes on vehicles, on uniforms, on everything. Pride. That emblem represents more than Wojtek. It represents what the Polish Second Corps did, what they sacrificed, what they achieved when everyone said it was impossible. Wojtek is promoted, Corporal Wojtek now, official, with the paperwork and everything. He's earned it. The war continues. The Polish Second Corps advances north, fighting through Italy, breaking the Gothic line, liberating towns. Wojtek comes along. He's too famous now to leave behind, too much a part of the unit. In rest areas, away from the fighting, Wojtek relaxes, swims in rivers, wrestles with soldiers, drinks beer. Yes, beer. The soldiers share their rations. Wojtek loves beer, loves the taste, the feeling. He'll drink a whole bottle if you let him. Gets happy, playful, never aggressive, just happy. The British soldiers can't believe it. A beer drinking bear, a wrestling bear, a bear that fought at Monte Cassino. They take pictures that tell stories. Wojtek becomes part of the broader Allied mythology. The unusual, the unexpected, the thing that makes people smile in the middle of horror. But the war is ending. 1945. Germany is collapsing. The Eastern Front is gone. The Western Front is crumbling. The Allies are advancing from all sides. Victory is close, finally close. May 8th, 1945. Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. The fighting stops. After 6 years, it's finished. For the Polish Second Corps, there's no celebration. Not really, because Poland isn't free. The Yalta Conference gave Poland to Stalin. The Soviet Union controls it now. The men who survived Kolyma, who fought across 3 continents, who took Monte Cassino, they can't go home. If they return to Poland, they'll face Soviet persecution, arrest, prison, maybe death. Most choose exile. Britain offers settlement. The Polish Resettlement Act. Stay in Britain. Build new lives. Never see home again. The 22nd Company moves to Scotland. Winfield Airfield near the village of Hutton. Wojtek comes with them. Still part of the unit. Still family. Scotland is different. Green, cold, rainy. Not Italian cold. Scottish cold. Wet, penetrating. The soldiers adapt, find work, start building civilian lives. But they're refugees, displaced persons, men without a country. Wojtek becomes local celebrity in Scotland. The villagers hear about the soldier bear, come to see him, children especially. Wojtek is gentle with them, patient, lets them pet him, feed him, take pictures. He seems content, happy even. But things are changing. The unit is demobilizing. Soldiers are leaving, finding civilian jobs, moving to different cities. The 22nd Company is dissolving, and Wojtek, a 500-pound bear, can't live in civilian housing, can't be cared for by individual soldiers working factory jobs. The decision is made, November 15th, 1947. Wojtek will go to Edinburgh Zoo, permanent home, professional care. The soldiers hate it, hate giving him up. But there's no choice. They can't keep him, can't provide what he needs. The farewell ceremony is heartbreaking. Wojtek's former comrades, dozens of them, gather at the zoo. They're in uniform, medals displayed. Wojtek is led to his enclosure. He doesn't understand. He just knows his friends are there. He's happy to see them. The soldiers salute. Military salute. Formal. Final. Some reports say Wojtek returned the salute, raised his paw like he'd been taught. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. The soldiers want to believe he did. Many of them cry. Tough men, veterans of Kolyma, of Monte Cassino, of 6 years of war, crying over a bear. Wojtek enters his enclosure, looks back. His friends are leaving. He doesn't understand why. The years at Edinburgh Zoo are lonely. Wojtek has food, shelter, care, but he doesn't have his family, his unit, his friends. Zoo staff report that he perks up whenever he hears Polish being spoken, stands on his hind legs, makes the saluting gesture, like he's remembering. Veterans visit regularly, bring him cigarettes, which he still eats, bring him beer when they can sneak it in, sit with him for hours, talking in Polish, telling him about their lives, their struggles, their memories. Wojtek listens. understands in whatever way a bear can understand. These are his people, his family, but the visits become less frequent. The veterans are aging, dying, moving away. Life goes on. The war recedes into history. Wojtek becomes a curiosity. The bear who fought at Monte Cassino. Children come to see him. Tourists. They don't know the full story. Don't know about Kolyma, about the camps, about the men who saved him, and who he saved in return. Wojtek's health declines in the early 1960s. Arthritis, age. He's not young anymore. None of the men who knew him are young anymore. December 2nd, 1963. Wojtek dies at Edinburgh Zoo. He's 21 years old for a bear. Long life considering. The Polish veterans in Britain hold a memorial service. Many attend. Old men now, white-haired, hunched. But they come, they owe him that much. Newspapers run obituaries. The Times, The Scotsman, others. Wojtek, you Polish soldier bear, dead at 21. The stories recount his service, his legend, his role at Monte Cassino. For decades after, Wojtek's story fades, not forgotten by those who knew him, but not widely known either. The Cold War keeps Poland separate. Polish history under Soviet control doesn't celebrate the Polish Second Corps, doesn't mention the men who fought with the Western Allies, doesn't mention Wojtek. But things change. The Soviet Union collapses. Poland regains independence. 1989, 1990. Polish historians can finally tell the full story. The gulags, Anders' army, Monte Cassino, and Wojtek. Books are written in Polish, in English. Documentaries are made. Researchers interview the last surviving veterans, men in their 80s and 90s, trying to separate fact from legend. The facts are incredible enough. Official military papers, service records, photographs, battlefield reports that mention the bear carrying ammunition. It's all real. Statues are erected. Krakow, Edinburgh, London, bronze bears carrying artillery shells, memorials to Wojtek and to the men he served with. School children learn about him, about the Polish Second Corps, about Monte Cassino, about survival and sacrifice, and the bonds that form in war. The last veteran who served with Wojtek dies in the 2010s. One by one, they pass. The direct witnesses are gone. Now it's secondhand. Children, grandchildren, historians. The story remains, but the living memory fades. Yet Wojtek endures. His statue in Edinburgh's Princess Street Gardens shows him with a soldier. Together, equal. The inscription tells his story. Tourists stop, take pictures, read about the bear who became a soldier, who fought at Monte Cassino, who lived and died far from home. Like the soldiers who saved him, Wojtek never returned to his birthplace. Born in the mountains of Persia, died in Scotland, crossed continents, fought in a war, became a legend. An orphaned cub who should have died in the wilderness instead became part of something larger, part of a brotherhood, part of history. The men of the 22nd Company were orphans too, in a way, taken from their homes, their families destroyed or scattered, their country erased. They survived through brotherhood, through caring for each other, through holding on to humanity in inhuman circumstances. Wojtek was part of that. Not despite being a bear, because being a bear, because he was innocent, pure, uncomplicated in a world of complication and compromise and horror. What made Wojtek matter wasn't what he did at Monte Cassino, though that was remarkable. What made him matter was what he represented. Hope, continuity, something to protect, to nurture, to love when everything else was death and destruction. The soldiers saved Wojtek. Wojtek saved them back, not physically. though his ammunition carrying helped, emotionally, spiritually, giving them something beyond survival, giving them purpose. The photographs remain. Wojtek standing upright, Wojtek with soldiers, Wojtek carrying a shell, black and white images from another time. The men in them are long dead. The bear is long dead. But something persists, the story, the meaning, the reminder that even in war, even in the darkest times, connection is possible, love is possible, humanity is possible. You lie in your warm bed now, safe, comfortable. The world those men and that bear inhabited is gone. The gulags are closed. The battlefield at Monte Cassino is quiet, preserved, a memorial site where tourists walk where Polish soldiers died. The bunkers are empty. The guns are silent. Wojtek's enclosure at Edinburgh Zoo was demolished, replaced. Modern facilities now. No trace of where he lived those final 16 years. But his memory lives on, in statues, in books, in the stories Polish families tell their children about Wojtek, about the war, about their grandfathers who survived impossible things. The Polish Second Corps scattered after the war. Men went to Britain, Canada, America, Australia, Argentina, wherever they could find a place. They formed communities, Polish clubs, veterans associations, kept the language alive, kept the culture alive, kept the memories alive, and always they remembered Wojtek, late night gatherings, vodka, old men speaking Polish, telling stories about the bear, how he saluted, how he loved beer, how he carried those shells through the fire at Monte Cassino, laughing, sometimes crying. Their youth was in those stories, their friends who didn't make it, their country they never saw again. The children and grandchildren listened. Some understood, some didn't. How could they, growing up in London or Toronto or Chicago, safe, free, never hungry, never cold, never hunted, never imprisoned? How could they understand what that bear meant to men who had nothing, who were nothing, who rebuilt themselves into something through sheer will and brotherhood? But they tried to understand. They keep the stories alive. They visit the statues. They read the books. They learn Polish sometimes, connect to their heritage. And Wojtek is part of that heritage. The bear who fought in a war, the bear who became a Polish soldier, the bear who never forgot his friends and who his friends never forgot. Your eyes are heavy now. The story is long. The journey from the mountains of Persia to Monte Cassino to Edinburgh to memorial statues across the world. It's a lot to hold, but hold it gently. These men, this bear, they're at rest now. The suffering is over. The war is over. The exile is over. They're beyond pain, beyond loss, beyond everything except memory. And you're here, in your bed, safe, warm, living in the world they helped create. A world where Polish is spoken freely, where bears are protected, where wars, though they still happen, are fought by professional soldiers, not university students dragged from their homes, not prisoners given rifles and pointed at mountains. Wojtek's story is unusual, unique, but also universal. It's about survival, about finding family where you can, about maintaining humanity when everything tries to strip it away, about a group of men who saved a bear and a bear who saved them back in the ways that mattered most. The Polish Second Corps doesn't exist anymore. The 22nd Artillery Supply Company is gone. The soldiers are dead. Wojtek is dead. But on a hill in Scotland, bronze Wojtek stands with his bronze soldier, together, forever, the way it should be. Close your eyes, feel your pillow, your blanket, the safety of your room. This is what they fought for. not for themselves. They knew they'd lost that. Their Poland, their homes, their youth, all gone. They fought for the future, for generations they'd never meet, for you, so you could lie in a warm bed and hear their story and remember. Wojtek carried shells at Monte Cassino, but he carried more than that. He carried hope, carried love, carried the spirits of men who had every reason to give up but didn't, carried the memory of a Poland that was, and the promise of a Poland that would be again. And in that, in being a bridge between despair and hope, between war and peace, between then and now, he became something more than a bear. He became a symbol, a legend, a memory that refuses to die. Sleep now. Let the story settle. Let Wojtek and his soldiers rest in your mind. They're at peace. They've been at peace for decades. The struggle is over. The pain is over. Only the love remains. The loyalty remains. The memory remains. And in that memory, in that story told and retold across generations and continents, Wojtek lives on, still carrying his shells, still standing with his friends, still smiling his warrior smile, forever young, forever faithful, forever the bear who became a soldier, the soldier who remained a bear, the friend who never left and never will. Rest easy. They're resting too, all of them, together, safe at last.